3.
Still waiting for it. There we go.
All right, mics are hot. I'm live on Instagram and I'm live on Facebook.
All right, let me just share it to my group. And there we go.
How's it going, Podcast Nation? So I just got done with the show on with me and my brother on the growth paradox and understanding how complexity is one of the biggest obstacles to growth, and complexity is the silent killer of growth. So ultimately, one of the versions of complexity, I would say, would be emotions and ego and fear and anger. And oftentimes, if you get a team together and you're trying to scale something, you have a lot of people that have different versions of morals and different opinions, different egos, and a huge mix of people, especially when you're starting to scale a business. So I think it's crucial to start talking about emotional IQ and like emotional intelligence and the value of emotional intelligence, and understanding that when I lose control of my emotions and I let anger or fear or let someone else like upset me and then make a poor decision or make a poor take poor actions because I'm letting other people, what they say and do, impact how it impacts me in my emotions. So like if someone says something or does something, if I let that affect me and control my happiness, my contentment, and how I behave, I am giving them the power and control over me. So it's really interesting how you can take the control away from people by being content, by being rested, by being not irritable, by being happy, and understanding that you don't have to let other people, what they say and do, control your emotions and your happiness and your anger. So I think that's a really big part of having a team of people that can work together flexibly and cooperatively, especially in business or in any kind of event, or if you're trying to pursue anything. Having a team that is cooperative, flexible, open-minded, humble, and content, not irritable, and emotionally stable, it directly correlates with the talk about anger and so forth. So Dal Bacon, the Recovery Atheist, the one and only, he came up with this topic for today on anger. So I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit, and then we're going to dive deeper into this topic.
Well, hello, everybody out there in Podcast Nation. It's a Recovery Atheist coming to you live with my buddy JR here. And I just want to say that I am so happy that you've been able to join us today. It's my privilege to be able to bring this information and education out there into the world. So today we're going to be talking about anger, which is a very common thing that you hear from people when they're going through life, where they mess up or they get tripped up by something because they're within that emotion of anger. And they can be caused by many different things. It can be both external, internal events that are going on. And there's all different types of anger that go along with it. You've got the person you know who's the passive-aggressive angry. You've got the person who is more of an open aggression. In other words, they're intimidating, can be violent in that anger.
Yeah.
And then you've got your assertive anger. Now, this is where I'm going to point a few things out. Anger can be both on a good or a positive side or a negative side, depending on how you do it. Assertive anger, being upset over something, a boundary being crossed, something being done to you that is unfair or mistreatment, and being upset and angry over that by using assertive communication can be a very healthy way to deal with anger. It's being under a controlled kind of feeling, a confident feeling, talking, listening, and being open to help in dealing with that situation in that anger. I don't know, we talked about this not too long ago. We had a question from a person that was watching us about
Walking
away with anger. And I've told you that.
That was an interesting question.
Right. I've told you that a lot of times that's what I've had to do is walk away from the anger and take a few minutes to just shut down for a little bit and think about it and come back into balance. But as time has gone on, I'm getting better and better at trying to stay in the moment, because when you're at work, or you're going to be in situations where you're not going to get that opportunity to do it. So what are you going to do when you're on the spot?
And I think it's an interesting topic because ultimately there's so many interesting ways we can go with this. But what you talked about, I think I see a lot in you, Del, is passion versus anger. And I think anger and passion are a really thin line. And I think
very true.
Passion is a beautiful thing. And I think you have a lot of passion. And I think
do.
I'm the same way. And I, in the past, have also struggled with anger, but I recently have just started to realize that I don't have to let certain things affect me, and I can still stay passionate as long as I don't let my actions, as long as my actions don't go crazy and I don't start hitting things, destroying things, hurting
Right.
other people, I think it stays in that passion zone.
I
As long
agree.
as you stop, as long as it never goes to the point of violence or aggression or aggressive physicalness towards someone else,
Right.
I really think I think it's an interesting topic about how really we can talk about it more like a passion thing as opposed to an anger thing. And I think you are a really passionate guy, and that's what, I think passion is priceless. A lot of people I don't feel like have that fuel or that burn.
Well, I definitely have a passion about what I believe in and what I'm going to look at as things I need to do in my life, and I don't want people getting in my way that way. But sometimes it's unavoidable that people are going to step on my toes. There's going to be times that people are going to do things that are going to make me angry, and I say make because the truth is nobody makes me angry. I'm allowing that emotion to happen.
That's a great point.
I really wish that I could just shut that off sometimes and realize when someone's trying to trigger me that way, that I can just kind of step back from it in my head and look at where the source of this is coming from. Because I look at it as, should I be giving this space in my head for this? Should I be giving power to this the way that I am? And a lot of times when I do take that step, and take a breath while I'm sitting in it, I realize that I don't have to take it to that level in the situation, and I find other ways to be able to calm down and be able to deal with it and de-escalate the situation.
And another episode that we talked about was when we talked about what we let control us. We were talking about like faith. We talked about faith, and we talked about trust, and we talked about auditing why we trust things. And people so freely give trust to people on the internet that spew a story, or people that are speaking religious doctrine. People freely give trust to things. So we talked about another episode is talking about auditing our trust and auditing what we're letting control us. And that's another
Right.
point that I think we could correlate to this, is how we have to look at the things that are controlling us. A lot of us are letting fear, really, whether we realize it or not, control us. And I think that is a big correlation between fear and anger, because really when you look at someone that's angry, to me it's really like more of like an ego thing, because like it's me feeling like I'm insecure or fearful of you saying I'm less than you, or you saying I'm not as smart as you, or you saying that you're better than me. So to me, I think there's a really big correlation between understanding that if we can move towards having the control of our thoughts and our actions and what makes us mad and what doesn't make us mad, if we can control those things, we can stop getting angry and stop living in that fear, because I feel like there's a really big correlation between fear and anger, and understanding that I don't have to let people, places, and things threaten me and make me feel insecure or make me feel less than. You can find self-confidence and self-awareness to understand that I'm content with who I am and what I'm about, and no matter what you say or do, I'm not going to start to live in a fearful, insecure fashion and act out in anger and act out in ego and feeling like I have to show you that I'm the bigger, better dog,
Well,
or I'm
and
the bigger, better wolf.
That's the thing about anger that's the negative part of it, is when that ego gets involved in it and we start getting that insecurities and everything else like that going on. I've got a list here of 7 myths when it comes to anger, and one of them is anger is a negative emotion. It's not bad to feel angry. It's actually a normal, healthy emotion to have. Like many social injustices, like the riots and everything else that's going on.
Positive.
Yeah, there might be some looting and stuff like that that's not positive, but most of the anger that is going on is justified. Martin Luther King, even though he talked about nonviolence, he still felt angry in the situation that was going on during the civil rights days. So yeah, some of it is ego, some of it is that, being insecure, some of it is just feeling normal injustices that happen. Another one would be like anger. A lot of people think the minute you say I'm angry, it's aggression.
Well, there is a strong correlation.
But but at the same time, just because you're angry doesn't necessarily mean you have to be violent.
Yeah, it's just natural, is what you're saying.
Right. I mean, you can sit there all day long and be violent, and there's people out there that take the anger, and that's exactly where they go with it. I'm one that used to do that. I put holes in walls, break,
I've been an angry person.
Break
myself.
PlayStation controllers, do whatever it had to take to vent that anger out. Today I'm realizing there's other things I can do to take that anger and apply it into other avenues to deal with that anger, to vent it out, whether it be music, whether it be just going off on this guy over here and just deciding to vent on him about whatever he's talking about.
What's so great
that
about
pisses me off.
That's what's so great. But that's what you're talking about. That's exactly, essentially what we're doing on the show. If you think about it, it's about giving voices to people. So I think that's a great point, Del, is you just talked about how there can be positive that comes from anger. But I want to dive deeper into that, because if you look at the riots, it's essentially the language of the unheard. It's people that don't know how to share or communicate their story, their pain, or their suffering.
And they're just fed up.
They're just acting out and burning stuff. But if you think about it, it's one of the lowest levels of communication. If I'm like a little baby or a little kid and I'm angry, I'm hurt, I have pain and suffering, I'm just going to go and smash something.
You have a temper tantrum.
I have not found ways to communicate in a healthy way.
Right.
Because ultimately, if you look at the stories, these people need to start sharing their stories and communicating. That's what we do on the show, Del. It's exactly right. Because when I come on the show, I get to be able to talk about things and share my story and bring light to it and conversation and dialogue to it and communicate it to you so you guys understand. And you do the same thing.
Right.
So I think it's really interesting how you talk about people that burn something down or destroy something, which there can be positive from. But ultimately, I think that's the prime example of unhealthy communication.
Right, not knowing exactly how to deal with it.
And the inability to share your pain and suffering or your story in a healthy, constructive fashion to move forward. Instead, I'm just going to burn a building down.
Yeah, because I can sit over here right now. I mean, some of the conversations we had before we went live, I could sit over here right now and be completely fucking angry with you and let that get to me and completely shut me down and close my mind off. But the truth is that dialogue that we had, whether I was getting angry in the situation or not, having open dialogue and communication and trying to, think about it through and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if we don't do that, how are we ever going to change? How are we ever going to open our minds to different views? It's okay to be angry, but let that be, used as a constructive power, a strength in your life to be able to cause change.
Yeah, like a fuel. That's what I think about. Like, I think you're right, Del. I think it's like a way of me. For me, I think I use it as a fuel and like constructive fuel more than I do like. I used to, like you said, always. I've had many issues where I've had anger, where I fought people and I've been to jail. I've been arrested. I've made many poor decisions and poor mistakes and let other people let me get to that space where I let what someone say or do anger me to the point where my actions then were controlled by them. And it's really, really kind of
And then you sit after it, it's like you're so remorseful of it, especially if it's like someone you care about and you've done that. Yeah. Where you lash out at them. And then you wonder like, oh, why did I do that?
But the older I'm getting, the more I can realize that when I stay calm and I stay collected more than anything, it's like the most powerful skill I can have. To not get angry, to not let what anyone says, what anyone does, my people, places, and things dictate my happiness or my level of contentment or how irritable. If I am not irritable and I can just go anywhere and be in any conversation, talk about any level of complex ideas, whatever, if we want to debate, whatever it is, if I can go into that and be the emotional stable and stay calm and collected and like not let anything sway me, like you're going to become a really attractive pillar for people because people are attracted to people that are emotionally stable and don't get mad, don't get angry, don't hit people, don't act out. So I think being emotionally stable and strong and having control of my emotions is really an undervalued skill today.
Just take that anger and channel it into something that's going to have a positive effect. So if you feel like you're having social injustice, whatever it is, do stuff like what we're doing here. Have a voice. Do podcasting. Do something in the community to be able to help deal with some of that and release some of that by applying it to the community or applying it to something that you believe in that's important to you.
Yeah, so lean into that more, Del, because what you're talking about is basically a healthy, constructive outlet.
Right.
People that were angry, they could start. How about someone starts a Black Movement podcast and they start having all these people share their stories where they were wronged, where they were beat up, where they were judged, predicated against, and you start bringing dialogue to it, start sharing it.
And I've got a friend of mine right now that I'm working on. Shout out to Lux. I'm working with her. Yep, Lux.
Lux.
She's doing a lot more Facebook Live posts now, dealing with the Black Lives Movement and everything like that. She's one of those leaders that was in a lot of the protests down there that was going on with the megaphone up front and in front of the people. And I told her that she needed to have a voice, and so I'm working with her right now to get her set up on her own podcast down there. She's just waiting for the supplies to come in, the mic and all that. But she's learning how to do it, and she wants it, and she wants to take her anger that she has, and she wants to put it in there to bring more people to her platform to look for change.
And you have it up on the screen right there, Del. It's talking about unhealthy, it says unhealthy community, like what does it say right there? Anger management classes and therapy, powerful tools that, unhealthy expression of anger and legal problems. So yeah, I think anger can be a beautiful thing. Because like me, when I think back on my life, a lot of my anger is my number one motivator. When I think about it, is when my mom died. So like they say pain and suffering motivates change. So if you think about it, for me, a lot of my motivation and my determination and my work ethic comes from when my mom died. And when my mom died, it was incredibly painful and it was a lot of suffering. So a lot of my motivation comes directly from that. And I'm trying to in my younger days, I used to funnel that into an addiction and anger. But as I get older, I'm trying to funnel it into healthy, constructive ways of sharing that and using it to motivate myself as opposed to destruct myself, self-destruct. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. And it's really interesting how you can correlate all this to anger and using it as a positive as opposed to a negative.
Well, right. And one of the biggest things with dealing with anger is being able to understand why you're feeling that way. How are you truly feeling? What are you feeling in your body? What are you feeling, in your thoughts that way? And it said that some of the best ways to deal with anger management is to go with cognitive behavioral therapy, which again,
you have direct experience.
Exactly. That's what I'm fully trained in. I'm very experienced in CBT. That's what I had to use for my counseling. So using the brain, deciding that with our brain, we get those feelings off the thoughts that we're having, and then coming up with the behavior from those thoughts. And the therapy part of it, or treatment part of it, is coming up with better ways to deal with those thoughts and those emotions to make the right behavioral choice.
So essentially a psychic change.
Well, and again, I mean, in my AA meeting last night I was at, we read Bill's story, which it says in there, for me to be able to have recovery, I have to have a complete psychic change. Now, some people think that's spiritual or God or whatever you want to believe it is. That's fine. For me, when I look at it, it just means to me is that I have to look at things differently.
Yeah, me too. Change how I think.
I have to look at life differently. I have to look at the obstacles that I'm facing differently. I have to approach it from a different perspective, a different angle, because all the other ways that I have approached it from the old ways I've done has done nothing but put me in a hotel room with a bottle of vodka. So after this point, or up to this point, that hasn't worked.
Exactly.
So I need to have a psychic change. I need to change the way my thinking is, because if I don't, I will be dead from this thinking. So it's the same way. How many people out there with anger have put them in a situation where it's physically unhealthy, where they're getting in fights or getting shot at, or people getting murdered?
I mean, domestics are probably, you think about that, it's probably one of the most common things in the nation for arrest.
So if you notice you have a problem with that, and you're having a lot of consequences that are dealing with your anger, you might need to look at that and stop approaching it and attacking it the way you are, and try to find a way to do it differently. Now, you can try to do it on your own.
It helps to have help.
But if you're like me, you need help. So I go to therapy once a week. I have somebody that I talk to deal with that, and learn coping skills.
Healthy.
To be able to deal with that, because we've talked about this. If you're not if you're not willing to change, if you're not looking at life and making changes to become the best person that you want to be for you in your life, then what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. You only live once, and if you're not trying to maximize that life, I mean, what is the point?
I mean, you're going to walk around, you're going to be depressed, you're going to walk around angry and irritated at the world. You're going to take it out on other people. Challenge yourself, go learn new things, change yourself, change your views, change things, challenge life and what it is. And I guarantee you will find out on the other side of that you are more happier and have more joy in your life.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And simple happiness. But that's why I think I talk about the growth steps so much, with the first step being auditing and awareness, second step being humility and open-mindedness, and then the third step being sharing your value with the world freely, and then taking action and developing strategy from that. So that's exactly what I feel like I do here at Women Media, and that's where I start to overcome a lot of these things. It gives me a healthy outlet. It gives me a place where I can share my pain and my suffering and my story with you. So I'm expressing it in a healthy, constructive way that shows other people I've experienced these things and I've gone through this, and they can possibly relate to it. And then by doing that, we develop commonalities, and we come together and start to share our stories, and we're able to work together and cooperate. And for me, this is where I find the growth, and this is where I'm doing what I love. I get to lean into what my life, what I've been through, and what I've done on this show on a daily basis. And it's, to me, the most constructive thing I've done since since I've ran a bit. Well, my moving company, I made money, but this is truly, to me, much more than just making money. This is about unity, sharing my story, sharing my pain and suffering, sharing what I've been through and bringing value to other people, and then developing a strategy through that we can start uniting people more and having you share your story so that we can all start to come together and unite via fictional storytelling.
And have relations that way, be able to relate to each other and realize that we're not alone in the world and what we're trying to fight against or what we're going up against. You know how I love quotes.
Yep.
I love them. I love books. I love quotes. When it comes to anger, Aristotle had a wonderful one. It was called, "The angry man is aiming at what he can attain, and the belief that you will attain your aim is pleasant."
Belief.
So
That sounds like hope to me, right?
Right. So I'm not a faith guy, but I do have some hope. I mean, I wake up in the morning with the, how do I call it? Not necessarily the word hope, but the anticipation, the excitement that there's something in my life each day that I get up and I go out to do that's going to be good for me in my life. And that the decisions I'm making, I do have the belief that the decisions I'm making will end up allowing me to have a more pleasant, a more successful, a more satisfying life by making those choices. So instead of me being angry all the time, I decide that I'm going to turn that around and I'm going to look for the pleasant things in life, in each moment, the little things. Because, man, as an angry person like I've been, I can find every little thing to make me irritated or angry.
I think that's the interesting point, is about, you touched on hope in that quote to me, the angry man is aiming at what he can attain, and the belief that you will attain your aim is pleasant. I think that summarizes hope. And a lot of what I talk about at We're in Media and why I'm able to do what I love and pursue my passions for profit directly relates to hope. So I think America, if you analyze it, is they're restless, they're irritable, and they're discontent, and they don't have hope. And it's a lot of the same characteristics that go on with addiction. And then if you dive even deeper, the consumer is addicted to time and they're addicted to speed. They have an unhealthy relationship with time and speed. So it leads to them overpaying for certain services or products that give them, because they're time poor. So it's been proven that the consumer's time poor. So of course, if we don't have control of our time and we don't have control of our finances and we're living in a consumeristic way where we're working a job we hate and we're doing something we hate and we don't enjoy, and we're not doing something that we truly are passionate about. Of course, it sounds miserable to me. You have no hope. You're not doing something you love. You're living beyond your means financially. You're buying things just because you think it's going to give you more time to do what you love, when really you're spending all your time just trying to buy back time because you're working a job that you hate. So you don't have control of your time and you're time poor. It sounds pretty miserable, restless, discontent, and then you're probably going to be a little angry with that. So to me, that's why I talk a lot about the growth steps and talk a lot about pursuing your passions for profit and minimizing your financial liabilities and obligations, because when I start to reverse engineer that, I then have control of my time. I then can start investing my resources, being my time and my money, my energy, to do something I enjoy and love, and start to feel that hope, that happiness, and the reason for living coming to life. Because if I'm just working a job that I hate and doing something I hate and I have no control over my time, of course I'm going to be angry.
Well, and with the economic world the way that we live in, we're consumer slaves. That's what they want us to be.
Yeah, they want
they want to tell us through the media and through advertising,
you on it.
through this, through that you're not pretty enough, you don't make enough money, you don't do this, you don't do that, so you're not good enough.
And you need to buy this.
You need to go get that gym membership. You need to have this. You need to go buy this to make you feel that void that you have in your life, rather than finding things that you're passionate about, that you want to go out and you want to work toward and you want to grab and you want to hold on to and run with.
And that you get passion and joy from. Like since you started this podcast, you were talking about how much fun it's been.
My life is the way I feel about it, and I actually have a friend that is on Facebook that actually said this to my mom a little while back, that
shout out,
that literally the way I sound is more on a positive light, and that my mood and everything like that and what I'm posting is completely different. And the reason that is because I'm actually doing the things that I'm passionate about in my life. I feel I have purpose.
That's beautiful. Isn't that freaking... Look how easy that is. A lot of people, I feel like they don't think that's possible.
Oh, it's very achievable.
It's so achievable. I have done it myself, Del. I'm right here next to you. We're doing it together. Like, I have got rid of a car. I don't have a car. I ride the bus. That's given me the ability to have more finances available to pursue my passions.
Very costly.
a car insurance, car payment, and gas. That's very costly.
Spendy.
And then I've minimized my rent. So now I'm able to simply start a business, and it's going well. And now we're going to be hiring an intern and so forth. So it makes me feel like I have purpose. It makes me feel like there's hope, like I'm making progress. I'm not stuck. I'm not stagnant. I have control of my time. And then in turn, it makes it a lot easier to not be angry. Totally. It's so hard to be angry when you're doing something you love. If you're doing something you love, you're typically not going to be, it's going to be hard to fail, and it's going to be hard to be angry. You will never fail a day in your life doing something you love.
For some reason in my head, I just got a Rick Ross song.
Ross, which one?
Every day I'm hustling. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm hustling every day. I'm moving.
Especially when it's fun.
Yeah, making moves every day, making sure I'm getting my videos out there, making sure I'm getting my podcast out there, making sure I'm advertising it, making sure I'm talking to people through my group chats.
It's so fun.
Making connections, doing the networking, and trying to have a voice and a change in my world that I live in, my reality, and help maybe in the long run somebody else's reality.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about all this, is since we've started, you start to feel it, you start to see it, and not only feel it and do it, but yeah, it's just, to me, it's the ultimate form of pursuing my passions for profit. So
right.
It's really amazing, and it's really priceless, and it's nothing makes me grow more than hearing other people's stories and trying to take their experience, their wisdom, and their experience, and bring it with mine, and then move forward, like more aware, more in touch with reality, and more rounded.
Correct.
So I think it's just really awesome, and I think the topic of anger is really cool, how we can correlate anger to fear, how we can correlate it to not having hope, how we can correlate it to being discontent, or all these different things, and anger and emotional IQ. And I really think emotional IQ is a really big topping point, and we've mentioned it many times.
We talk about it all the time.
We do. So I think it's really cool that you came up with this topic, and you're always coming up with great topics on a regular basis. So
well, this is where I'm going to throw some jokes in there. I said, my parents are in town, and so having to deal with my dad all the time.
Shout out to the parents.
They're over here in the corner.
Shout out to mom and pops. Even though they're Packers folks, I still shout out to them.
Even though they're Packers folks, and my dad's a minister, and he has to deal with an atheist as a son.
Yeah, but that's beautiful. That means
it's an interesting turn of a twist, I guess. But both me and Dad, as it goes, when we spend way too much time together, the anger sometimes can get going.
That's interesting.
So it was for some reason in my head today, anger seemed to come out to the top, that I need to get better at that.
But you seem like you're getting better.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm getting better at anger?
But ultimately...
Yes.
You're doing better.
But ultimately, you guys' attention is our oxygen. So I'm going to say quick shout out to Kevin Conlou for supporting us with the donation, and shout out to Many Wash for supporting us with the donation. We greatly appreciate it, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in and being in the show with us and watching. And we really appreciate having you here. We even moving forward want to have more people on the show, and we're going to be leaning into topics like this, but having Zoom meetings. So eventually, we're almost ready for it. We're going to be live streaming.
Yeah,
Zoom.
That'll be nice, because then we'll be able to have other people as special
From
guests
anywhere.
through Zoom from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, so we're almost pretty much there, but it's a little complex.
We're working on it. But we're
going to have that soon, where we're going to be able to live stream anywhere with anyone in the world from Zoom, and you'll be right here with us on the show.
Right.
So it's just pretty complex, but it's almost there. So I'm excited for that, and then we'll be able to not only be on the show, but also have anyone from anywhere in the world on the show. So
right.
That'll be really epic. So how about we wrap it up, Dylan?
All right.
We'll come back.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up for you. Don't let anger control you and drive you into the ground. Allow it to motivate you, and talk to people about it, and learn ways to be able to deal with it. Thank you, everyone out there, for coming and watching us today. If you're interested in knowing more about my content at the Recovery Atheist, please check me out on my channel on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter as the Recovery Atheist.
Spotify.
Yes, Spotify now. I'm on Apple. I'm everywhere now. iHeartRadio I applied today, and it looks like that's going to get ready.
They're a little slower.
They're slower, but I talked to them today, so it looks like they're going to try to speed that up for me. So everything is going. Even Pandora, I talked with them today. So things are going in the direction where you'll be able to see me on many different platforms. And if you want to email me to get a hold of me, it's therecoveryatheist@gmail.com. Love you watching us. Why don't you go ahead and close your side?
I will. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Your attention is our oxygen at Weirman Media, and it's fast, fluid, flexible content creation for the modern day. Thank you for tuning in once again. Your attention is our oxygen.
Peace.
Got a couple comments.
Of course. Go Go ahead.